It's insane to me that we're fastly approaching the point where YouTube has been around for 20 years. There's an entire generation of kids and teenagers that have never lived in a world without it. I first logged on to YouTube in January of 2006, and everything changed for me. I suddenly felt validated for spending my free time making home movies on my mom's camcorder, as most of the big hits on the front page of this new website were not much more complex than what I was doing. No longer did you need an entire production company to reach and entertain millions. I watched the website evolve over the years, witnessing a lot of channels I grew up with move further and further away from that homemade, independent sort of feel as they grew into legitimate and profitable enterprises. YouTube was suddenly so viable that Hollywood wanted a piece of the pie and was snatching up deals with creators that never would have had a chance a decade prior. Then there's the flip side, where some YouTubers develop their craft and are successful on the platform because they understand the basic fundamentals of filmmaking and would love the opportunity to transition to feature films. There was a long chunk of time, and arguably it never stopped, where that seemed like that was the entire end goal for a lot of YouTubers, and sometimes that led to a sort of implied disrespect for YouTube as a medium for art, but not always. But that's always the interesting part. When a YouTuber actually makes the leap to a feature film and you get to see if they could actually transition to that medium, or if things would go horribly awry, because making 3-minute sketches in your spare time is a hell of a lot different than planning, writing, budgeting, casting, and shooting a 90-minute feature film. Today we're going to look at a variety of different YouTuber movies, some that are Hollywood, some that are no-budget indie, and one that is somewhere in between. Let's start with the best of the bunch.
Ew.
Yep, boysenberry, all right.
Only one question remains, Eric. Why'd you do it?
I'll bet you he gets his kicks giving old ladies the heebie-jeebies.
Hell nah. I wanted to see if it felt like pussy like in that movie.
Donald Glover is a man of many talents, so it comes as no surprise that he's responsible for the best film on this list. My friend and Harbor alum Casher got my friend group into Glover's work very early on. We were bumping his mixtape Cul-de-sac on the way to school, and after school we'd log on to YouTube and watch Derek Comedy videos. If you didn't know, Derek Comedy was an internet sketch comedy group that Glover formed with Dominic Dierks and DC Pearson during their time at NYU. They were responsible for some highly viral sketches that were passed around a lot in early high school, as their offensive brand of humor resonated greatly with kids my age. They were successful enough with their sketches to afford funding to make a feature film, and in 2008 they said they'd be taking a break from YouTube to make said movie. In 2009 came Mystery Team, an indie comedy that my friends and I quoted constantly through high school and even after. And occasionally, even today, one of us will throw out a reference, with the reference being a reference to how much we would over-reference in high school.
Are you doing, man? What a scoop! Local boy bulls. Well, gotta go.
I haven't seen the film since probably 2011, and I'd been hesitant to give it a rewatch for years, worried that it would not stand the test of time. I'm happy to report that most of this film holds up, and it got more than a few belly laughs out of me. The whole joke of the film is that the Derek Comedy trio are playing 3 18-year-olds who never grew up and still act like 8-year-olds who spend their day solving neighborhood mysteries. The film is great at actually feeling like a movie and not a bunch of different sketches stitched together. And it actually flows decently well because it's clear that they thought out the mystery ahead of time and actually made it work before cementing all of the gags. Unlike the rest of the movies on this list, this one is competently shot, implementing a very fluid visual style with a lot of handheld movement and many tracking shots that feel unique. I feel like Donald Glover really carries the weight of the film, as his sense of humor comes off as charming with the right balance of silly. If you liked him in Community, then you'd probably like him here. The joke of the film is that they're tasked with solving an actual real murder, something far outside of their wheelhouse, as they're used to solving petty crimes like the case of the overdue library book. They use the murder aspect as the main source of dark humor, instead of going for the edginess of their YouTube sketches, which seems pretty fair. They stretch the concept of them acting like children pretty far, and it's impressive with how well they can keep it going without it getting too old, at least for a while. Because I do think there are a few stale ideas here and there scene-wise, but even in the middle of one of these scenes, the trio managed to elevate it with their back and forth banter. I also think the first half of this movie is a little bit better than the second half.
He's leaving. We gotta follow him.
I don't know, Jason. According to his shirt, he has no fear.
The nostalgia for this film is strong, and it's tied directly to my coming of age, because the first or second time I ever watched the film was a day I skipped school with Casher, and it happened to be on April Fool's Day, and the day ended with us getting detained by an entire squad of policemen because of a prank gone horribly wrong, but that's another story. Overall, it's a solid little indie comedy, and I wish they would have gone on to make more movies together. But Community started to blow up, and Donald Glover put out the Freaks and Geeks EP, and the rest is history. I would love to see him come back to the sketch comedy format, or make smaller comedies like this and see him flex that muscle now that he's made heavyweight TV like Atlanta. I'd check this one out.
There is no reason to yell at me.
Die, puny humans, die!
The first video I ever watched on YouTube was Smosh's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video. I would watch that and their Pokemon theme song video every day for weeks back then. They were the driving force for me returning to the website from 2006 to 2007, and it was the first channel I ever subscribed to. And like any good 11-year-old filmmaker, one of my first YouTube videos was an exact copycat of their Ninja Turtles video. They really paved the way for the kinds of sketches that would be popular on YouTube in its early days, and it was very formative for me and my sense of humor. I started to outgrow their videos around the time they started doing Lunchtime with Smosh, but they held a special place in my heart as I continued to try and make YouTube sketches on my own. It really was a case of the right place and the right time with them being on YouTube before everyone else. It makes sense that they would blow up pretty quickly, and that level of tenure would naturally lead to bigger things. It was the Wild West back then on YouTube and content creation, so it's hard to blame the boys for the trajectory that they took. It makes total sense that they would be tapped for a theatrical film adaptation, and even though I hadn't watched their stuff in half a decade, I remember being interested to see what the film would even be, and what approach they would take to translate the YouTube style into a feature film. By the time this movie came out, YouTube had really shifted pretty hard. We were starting to get a lot of Let's Plays, makeup tutorials, prank videos, and more content for the sake of content. It came just a little bit too late, and I wonder how it would have fared if it would have came out in 2012 or 2013, right at the cusp of this online cultural shift. By 2015, I had fallen away from mainstream YouTube, and I was in my early 20s, and I only cared about ironic and post-ironic videos, and was busy making my own similar stuff that never would have caught subscribers in a million years. So you can guess my reaction when I saw the poster for Smosh the movie, and it was a lame picture of them high-fiving above the Hollywood sign that spelt out LOL. That was an instant moment of, they sold out big time, and I'm sure a lot of people felt the same. In hindsight, now having seen the movie though, this poster doesn't really even represent the film at all. It made the movie seem like it was going to be some big Hollywood adventure, like it would be about Smosh hitting the big time or something, when in reality, the plot makes much more sense for a Smosh idea. It revolves around them going inside of YouTube to try and erase an embarrassing video that Anthony made in high school because he thinks it's the reason him and his high school crush never got together. I thought the film was going to be abysmal, and it's bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not some noteworthy piece of shit. In fact, I went back and watched some of their older sketches from the early 2010s, and I'd say a fair amount of the movie is in line quality-wise with those sketches. Well, the middle 50% I'd say is like this. The beginning and ending where they actually have to format it like a movie is where it suffers. That main middle 50% that I mentioned is when they go inside of YouTube and explore it and accidentally get themselves into quirky situations. It's clear this is the part of the movie they cared about most, and then they work backwards to try and make it work as a movie. That's the main problem, is that this middle section of the movie could have and would have worked much better as just a video on their channel, like maybe an extra long one, 15 minutes or so, where they go inside YouTube and just focus on the jokes there, and have it just be a parody. Stretching it into a full-length plot is where it goes wrong, but that's what I was looking for the entire time, because I assumed their shtick worked better in 5-minute increments online, where they don't have to worry too much about plot structure and character arcs. And I was right. I give them kudos for trying though, because even though this is a Hollywood movie, and they do try to streamline and neuter their humor a bit, it still doesn't feel too different from their videos. But that also leads to the other question. Why did this movie need a Hollywood production? If you watch it, you'll realize the production value is not that much more than what you already saw on their channel. The special effects have that cheap, low-grade look, just like their online sketches have. They go out to a few locations like the arcade and the YouTube headquarters, but it all feels very cheap and not outside what they could handle on the channel. And then looking into it, it turns out the entire movie was shot in the Los Angeles YouTube space. So it's bizarre to me that this is a 20th Century Fox movie, but they still made the scope and production so small. If they would have kept it indie, it wouldn't have had to been changed that much. I'm sure they could have just filmed with Jenna marbles at any old house. The sets are not elaborate. They're pretty popular YouTubers. Getting extras for the furry party and the high school reunion couldn't be that hard. I feel like they could have maybe went for more of that absurdist, stupid humor from their channel videos if they went this route. And I'm sure they could have struck a deal with YouTube to release the film as a pay-per-view YouTube Red sort of thing. On a technical scale, the film is shot as bland as it can get. The script is weird, and I know their target demographic is for 14-year-olds, but that doesn't mean you have to write your mid-20s protagonists like they're also 14. It comes off as inauthentic to anyone watching, and you can tell the writers and directors of the film are in their 40s. Alex Winter directed this, by the way, fun fact. Anthony is written as a grown man who considers himself more mature than Ian because he has a job, but the whole plot stems from him wanting another chance with his high school crush that he hasn't seen in 5 years, and obsessing over an embarrassing video of him from high school that no one ever watched. Ian is also written very juvenile, as his entire bit of the entire movie is that he is obsessed with a video of a woman getting a butt massage and he's her biggest fan. And it has that weird, sterilized, light PG-13 horny vibe that annoys me, like he's 13 looking up breast exam videos or something. To be fair, their YouTube videos also had their fair share of lowbrow bikini babe sequences. This just comes off 10 times more lame when it's written for the big screen. Also, Ian and Anthony do not know how to transition their sketch acting to movie acting.
And now you're like a guy who would spend $80 on a haircut.
Look, I'm still the same guy, I swear.
Anthony.
Now, this is a problem I had foreseen in an adaptation such as this, YouTube to film. It makes sense, but perhaps if they hadn't attempted real drama with this kind of a tone, who knows? But the direction they were given cannot hold up the film, unfortunately. There's a few sequences during the YouTube exploration part that gives me a glimmer of the old YouTube days, and it reminds you of just how much things have changed online even since this came out. But other than that, it's a waste of time.
It's tea kettle night at the VFW hall. Again. You can't have tea kettle night without a tea kettle. Oh, come on, you know what I'm talking about.
Who are you?
Toot toot. Yeah, right.
This choice might be controversial, since when it was released, the YouTubers that made it, Red Letter Media to be exact, were more present on their website than YouTube at the time. But I didn't want to do Space Cop, at least not in this video, because it felt like the obvious choice. But upon watching Feeding Frenzy, I realized just how amateur it actually is, and I feel bad for breaking it down because it's really just friends having fun making a no-budget horror. But there's a few things to say here. If you don't know Red Letter Media, they're a group of cinephiles from Wisconsin who've been making videos since the 2000s. The main trio are Mike, Jay, and Rich, and Mike's review of The Phantom Menace went viral in 2009 and established their online presence. Mike did this review in character as a disgusting old man named Mr. Plinkett, a character he used in subsequent reviews and is also seen in their Half in the Bag review series, except here he's played by Rich Evans in live action. Going in, I had no idea what this movie was going to be. I had only seen one clip from it before choosing it for this video. So the reveal of Mr. Plinkett at the beginning was a pleasant surprise. I had no idea that they would be using him for the villain of the movie. It also immediately set the tone and shows that they're not taking it very seriously, since it's a guy in his 30s playing an elderly man with zero makeup or prosthetics. At the same time, it's wild that they used Plinkett for a movie when they were still so fresh on YouTube and you had to watch half in the bag on their website at the time. So right off the bat, I was wondering, who is this for? Was it just for the Red Letter Media fans who visited the website? Was that viable enough for a DVD at the time? Or was this just for fun? It really seemed like a project they were hoping would go places at least a little bit, so that made the choice even more interesting to me. The film doesn't come off as forced as Space Cop when it comes to making you know that it's self-aware of its quality. It mostly comes off as friends having fun making stupid gore effects and dumb jokes. The longer it goes on though, the less being self-aware of your budget seems to matter, because it goes from mildly amusing to tedious to outright bad.
Oh boy, I'm glad I found my glasses.
Oh my god! My glasses are in my fucking eyes!
There was a point where I just gave up trying to defend it and find the good in it. It's a bad movie, with a few positives here and there. And honestly, it's a scene-by-scene basis. And that goes for the writing and the editing. Like, for every somewhat creative or interesting shot, it's overshadowed by 10 more bad or generic ones. There will be a humorous exchange back and forth, and then either it goes on way too long, or it's cut in an awkward way. Everyone's amateur delivery, of course, doesn't help. But I'll say the movie's at its best when they just have Rich Evans spouting off dumb bullshit.
Oh my god! All these cheap Chinese tapes, they just keep breaking on me! Oh my god!
The lighting looks like they just took the shade off of a lamp and put it right off camera in every scene, and it's very distracting. I know, because I've done the same thing in my movies. And I know mid-grade camcorders were not as good with low lighting back then, but man, this was not necessary. There are plenty of jokes that don't land, and it seems kind of weird that guys in their 30s weren't able to come up with better bits. The prime example of this being Jay's character jerking off under their covers while he talks to his roommate the whole time. However, there's a few corny jokes that are stupid enough that they made me laugh, like the cock bit, I guess.
Well, it sounds to me like you need some cock.
You bet I do. What are you up to this weekend?
Oh no, you've horribly misunderstood me. Caulk. It's a waterproof sealant used in repairing kitchen and bathroom tiles.
The score can be kind of baffling too. There's this scene where they enter the back of Plinkett's secret room and they come across all the weird stuff back there, and they do all these unnecessary long shots showing it all off, which needed to be cut down bad. But it's exacerbated by the score, which should be very suspenseful and strange, but instead it comes off like it should accompany a scene of two old men walking in the park on a lazy autumn day or something.
What is all this?
And here's the thing, self-aware or not, the sleazy girl nudity in this movie comes off really lame, because there are many instances in their videos where they condemn and make fun of low-budget directors being weird and inserting scenes exactly like this, and they're always calling them perverts. And I get the joke that the shot of them having to pick up all the feathers is a play on this, and I guess that's kind of funny, but it immediately falls flat to me.
So far it's
Sexy gross.
This is weird, but so far it's not bad.
It's not.
It's just embarrassing. It's not like Seize the witch! It's not like pornographic.
No, that's what makes it worse.
That's what makes it
There's something
worse.
weirder about it.
Yeah, but there's no like. Well, okay.
But look at the.
I can only imagine the scenario not being that much different from those kinds of movies they review, where it's just three people, a cameraman and a boom mic operator, and then the director, whoever's directing that scene, and then asking these girls to strip down. Like, it's just because it's self-aware, it's the same kind of thing. Overall, the film really feels like it's just a vehicle for them to do some fun gore and creature effects. And that's something I could get, normally. But if even your gore effects and creatures are half-assed, then what was even the point here? That's the core problem of the movie. And it just makes me feel like it's a big waste of time. Again, I kind of feel bad because it's a low-stakes project friends worked on probably in their spare time, but I don't know. They make a lot of money off of critiquing bad movies, so actually thinking about it, I really don't feel bad at all. Do not waste your time with this one. I know this one has been discussed more than enough, but I feel like it's pretty much obligatory to include in a video like this. Plus, I'm kind of an outsider here. I watched Nostalgia Critic as a teenager, and I remember being stoked to see him fight the angry video game nerd, but I never watched any of the rest of the YouTubers in this film. Not at the time, at least. It wasn't until years later that I realized the nostalgia chick was Lindsay Ellis, and the only reason I knew who Linkara was because of Rocco Bodie's Voltage Vengers video, which parodies Linkara's Power Rangers series. I'll say right off the bat, it was really funny seeing Lindsay Ellis in this movie, knowing what kind of content she's been making the last 5 years or so. Also, you can only hear the Oni Plays guys joke about the movie so much before your morbid curiosity gets the better of you.
We believe in you, Chris. I believe in Santa Christ.
Santa Christ?
Yeah. Lyle knows it. Santa Christ! Santa Christ! Yeah.
What's that from?
A really good movie. Critic thing.
So basically, the Nostalgia Critic gathers all of his friends from That Guy with the Glasses cinematic universe to help him take over the Republic of Molossia, which is a real-life place in Nevada where this guy named Kevin Bo declared the land to be a micronation that he rules as leader. And I'm not even making this up, go look it up. I assume that this was the inspiration for that Peoria episode of Family Guy. Why does Nostalgia Critic want to take it over so badly? Who cares? But I'll admit, the concept for the movie is intriguing and could make for a good script written by the right hands. But these are the wrong hands, as the whole movie is a dumb YouTube channel jerk-off filled with inside jokes and sequences that look and feel like they were made by your 12-year-old brother on his iPad in his bedroom. Yes, I realize I'm breaking down what's essentially another movie that's just a group of friends getting together and having fun. My first feature film is the same kind of thing, but this goes to the next level. This movie has a very specific kind of humor made by a very specific kind of dork. If you tried to show your friends episodes of The Guild in high school, you'll like this movie. If there was a time in your life where you wouldn't shut up about Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, then this movie just might be for you. Every character featured is like if you took the sweaty guy at a Melee tournament who still wears the Deadpool riding a unicorn t-shirt and mixed him with that annoying Gen X coworker who still spends his free time making the same tired posts online about how bad and disappointing movies like The Phantom Menace and Spider-Man 3 and The Last Airbender were. So Nostalgia Critic somehow gets all these people over to Nevada to shoot on location, and it's fairly obvious he only had a short amount of time to have all the characters at one time, as the film keeps cutting to all the characters sitting in the same hotel room, using that for one of the two major locations. I would love to know more about how much time they actually had time to shoot, how they got in contact with the guy who runs the place, stuff like that, because it seems to be the real guy who plays himself, which is neat. I thought going in that this would have the quality of the skits he does in his actual reviews, but it's worse than I even thought. You would think that since it was such a limited shoot that maybe they could shell out for a camera rental for a couple of weeks, but instead they shoot on a very standard digital camera from the late 2000s. And it seems like they use the built-in mic a lot, or maybe some cheap shotgun mic. But the background noise makes the film feel somehow even cheaper than it is.
Well, maybe we could play really bad music. That'll get him out of the government house. What kind of music would you pick? Michael Bolton.
No one should be subjected to that.
I guess Doug spent the entire budget on his M. Bison outfit instead. When they actually take over Molossia in the movie, there's this 5-minute stretch where it's non-stop audio of a dozen guys screaming, and it feels like it's never going to stop. There's some inside jokes like this character Santa Christ, who I think is from the lore of the Nostalgia Critic videos, but he's suddenly a big deal in the movie. which was silly and stupid, but I guess I can't judge it because the film is clearly for fans and their circle of creators. And also, my old videos are filled with inside jokes, so what can I really say? And that's the thing, everyone has a little bit of cringe at their core, and they're lying to themselves if they deny it. And this movie really has you embrace it. I've made tons of stupid videos, kind of like this, and yeah, I may have been 15 and not in my early 30s, but still, that's the main positive aspect for me here, and there's not much else. Well, I also like this sequence where after they've taken over the nation, you get this glimpse of how things operate now. And there's this guy, Rolo T, I think, who interviews people. And when it becomes almost a mockumentary for a second, that's when you see the potential of how the film could have been a bit better if they would have shot the whole thing in that style. The plot is just this back and forth of, okay, Nostalgia Critic is our leader, but of course some people disagree. And the cinema snob tries to keep the country running, but is getting no help, so he betrays the Nostalgia Critic. The Nostalgia Chick wants a piece of the pie, hijinks ensue, totally epic, awesome fight scenes happen, and Bored James shows up. The fact that James Rolfe's cameo is the best part of this movie is all you need to know here. So yeah, Kickassia, a slightly interesting internet artifact that would read as complete incoherent gibberish to anyone who is not terminally online. So there you have it. A quick dive into some YouTuber lore. I feel many of you are probably expecting the angry video game nerd movie, but what hasn't been said about that? It's even more obligatory than Kickassia. Maybe if I make another one of these, I'll cover it, but I'd rather even go deeper into the murky depths. Maybe I'll watch both Ashen's movies or the Cinema Snob movie, or God, what else? I hear Linkara has a movie as well. Christ. Let me know what you want to see, and I guess subscribe if you want. I'm making videos like this regularly now, so thanks for watching.